Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Ammar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to have Andrew Zang, the founder of Bespoke A IR, a firm crafting custom AI trading models for niche industries. With over $5 billion in real estate transactions and a 40 under 40 nod, Andrew is redefining AI applications. Andrew, welcome to Founders Future.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys setting this up and making this happen, and looking forward to sharing my story with your audience.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive in. I always like to start from the beginning. So take us back before you started the company that you're working on right now. What made you decide to start the company in the first place? And what challenges and problems were you hoping to solve in the marketplace?
That's a great question. So I held the same position for 13 years out of law school, and in doing so, I learned a lot about the way companies work, the way they think. I was a corporate real estate professional where we oversaw site selection that had to do with also change management and consensus building amongst organizations. You learned a lot on how the C-suite ends up thinking. You learn a lot about how solutions to challenges are thought of. And of course, after COVID and throughout COVID, there were so many decisions being made on how we're going to get back to the workplace and what products can help us do a hybrid type of workplace as well. In that same time frame, of course, artificial intelligence began to erupt. And in doing so, it changed so much about everyone's business. And it started to become more relevant within the real estate sector, just as much as it was for normal use of helping edit certain email, helping create certain stories. And in doing so, I started to really get involved in conversational AI chat systems and understanding how they work, understanding what their challenges are and how they could be most helpful to someone like me who has 15 years of experience and has done billions of dollars of transactions, all the way down to those that are just starting, and as well as thinking those that are 20 years my senior and still whether what they would need help with. So that's where my concept and thought process began, because I started working with these conversational AI systems and realizing that their data was not up to date. Because how could it be, right? If you're on the front lines within your industry, you're supposed to have the data before it becomes out in the news, before it becomes out in the public. And then I started to understand that's called first party data, right? And that's called also proprietary data, because that's your intel, right? That's your market knowledge. So I then saw that some of these systems end up hallucinating, and that the developers behind it are unbelievable computer engineers, but they're not real estate professionals.
No.
They are not subject matter experts. So that's when the aha moment came, to realize that we're moving in the future of where accessible data is so important, and to be able to have a system that retrieves that data is most important, because when you're a top line professional, top tier professional, you don't need assistance in making discretionary decisions, right? You're paid to do that, but you do need access to the right data. And I realized that is not available today. You still need to go and read reports and have your assistant help you and have a lawyer counsel you just to retrieve data. So that's where Bespoke AIR AI was built.
Amazing. And you make a great point. They might be great computer engineers, but they don't understand the problems that particular profession is facing. So you coming in with that unique knowledge, you can bridge that gap. I'm super curious though, before we dive into your company, what was the transition from 13 years in law in the corporate world like to being a founder, entrepreneur, and starting your own company?
So a lot of times when you're in business, when you're in a business development type role, and there's two parts of business at times. You're servicing but then you get to a point where if you need to start bringing in your own business either way, right? So you're technically, and they don't teach you this at a school, you realize that you always have to be thinking a business development mind. So thankfully, that's always been something that has been ingrained in me, where it's great to service your senior professionals' work. But at the end of the day, if you want to move ahead and you want to move forward quickly, you need to go and get business yourself and learn how to business development, understand where your market niche is, understand where you can be successful. So, it's playing in the right playgrounds at times for business, and understanding that don't bite off more than you can chew. I hope I used that idiom correct, because I'm not very good at those. But but in doing so, that is what really can set you up for success and can make it a little bit more of a smoother transition when you understand your strengths and your weaknesses. You understand where your audience is, and when you're able to do that well, is where the challenges can get a little bit more manageable. Because it's always a challenge, business development, and it's always a challenge, from the outreach to the lead generation to making a cold audience to a warm one. It's always a challenge.
1,000%, especially transitioning to your own company where you have to build everything from the ground up. You're building kind of the reputation all over again. It's not already in place for you to come in and do whatever role you have. It's a lot of challenges that get presented with that.
You know what? But it's also motivating, and you also don't have to split it with the house.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
When you're doing something for so long, and you always have to respect the banner behind you, a brand, a culture, an identity. That's always important, and that's why you choose the times to go to put yourself in positions in certain places. But at the end of the day, and what social media has done and what this purpose is, I've realized that you need to build your own brand and you need to build your own identity, and doing so. And why not use the resources that are available, like talking to you and getting your image and your brand out there, your name out there, because you're one search away and you're able to social proof yourself just as much as any brand can now. And it's pretty unbelievable. And it took me a long time to realize that you're able to do it. We all have to start somewhere. And I've been on this journey for a couple of years now in doing so. And I think it's exciting. And just as how you have to make partnerships and relationships and reach out to individuals to do stuff with and to work with, it's the same way how we're able to connect here today as well.
I love that. Yeah, the era that we're in is the era of the personal brand and really getting your name out there. Attention is the new currency. So help us understand, for the listeners who maybe don't have your expertise, they don't have your background, from a layman's perspective, what does Bespoke AIR do and who does it serve?
So AIR, artificial intelligence review, right? The R at times is what's behind the curtain. And funny enough, when I say it's behind the curtain, it's actually really what's playing out in front, because you're reviewing the work that's been done by the machine learning experts on the back end. So yes, because of artificial intelligence, we're able to build systems very quickly. We're able to retrieve data very quickly. But when you're in certain high-end professions where there's a level of expertise that is expected, whether it be extra schooling, whether it be extra experience that's just expected, whether you're dealing with publicly traded companies or large privately held companies. So there needs to be a special level of due diligence that's delivered to these products that are being put out there. So that's where we come in, and we're subject matter experts, that not only are we building it alongside a team of decorated developers that have worked at the top institutions and organizations around the world that have helped build us our custom systems that we're doing for companies, but at the same time as well, we're then going in and we're doing 6 months to a year at times, and 3 months if it's a smaller project, on fine tuning and testing, performing what's called edge cases, making sure that the systems don't hallucinate, right? And that's our primary objective. That's where we're putting the review in artificial intelligence. We're starting with real estate. That's our main business partnership. It's an audience that we know well, that I know well. And we're also doing security guard management services, security guard management that's actually within real estate as well. because you have lobby attendants in arenas and venues and commercial buildings and office buildings and residential buildings, and the ability for them to have systems where they can ask a question and receive an answer, not have to phone call a superior, not have to open up the rules, policies, and procedures books. It's a way that can handle crisis management in a much more seamless and efficient way if need be. And then as well as we're looking to build and working with the same companies that we've worked with in the past of human resources, right? Where you're able to have employees be able to have the resources of policies and procedures, from dress codes to days off to how their health care is supposed to be met. Questions where you don't have to rely on reading a book, talking to an HR person. These should be readily available systems and data that is proprietary to everyone's company and should be accessible to all the employees as well. That's what we're focused on. And our main difference is that these are going to be hosted on-premise solutions where the company owns the system. It's on the company's infrastructure, the company's server, the company's data. They don't have to transfer documents to a open AI or to a Llama or to a Gemini. We're building these from scratch so that these companies, because this is something totally different, but it's very important, and it's a good snippet of dialogue, because I believe and I feel very confident in saying that there's going to be a time quickly where it's going to be regulated from the workplace that you cannot upload company documents. And it's already starting, but you cannot upload company documents onto your own personal AI solution systems, because the transfer of data is then going into a cloud of software that you don't know where it's going. You're putting other people's financial information, other people's personal contact information that might be on those documents. And of course, we're proud of you for being ambitious and proactively maybe wanting to take your work home, or wanting to not have your seniors leadership know what exactly you're working on, your thought process behind it, because it's nerve-wracking for some younger people, and they obviously can watch and know everything that you're doing if you're putting it through their systems. But there needs to be a delicate balance in that. And I think being privacy and security is going to end up taking the lead on everything. And that's why custom bespoke solutions, I think it's going to be, in 5 years from now, every company is going to have their own system. And the open AIs and of the world, and the Llamas and the Geminis and every other perplexity, there's still 8 billion people who want to use these applications too, right? But when it comes to company solutions, I think there's going to be a bigger need and a bigger influence for it to be bespoke, like I'm doing, and heavily reviewed.
Yeah, no, that's huge, because uploading that to just like a chat GPT, for example, presents huge liability and huge data risk for a company, especially if it's sensitive information.
Think about a lease, an office lease.
Yeah.
So let me break this down for you. So first, you have a publicly traded company who's now potentially, before the quarterly report or the earnings reports are given, right? They're now putting value of what a lease was signed. But then, not only that, you're then giving away the private information potentially of the tenant that signed a lease, of what their books are. What if they're not a publicly traded company and they're a privately traded company? And now their lease and what they spend every month, and their financials and their letter of credit information and their contact information of who their
Crazy.
CFO is and COO are now all delivered and transferred to a system that is not secure, although you could hope, but right, you can't guarantee. It's a no-brainer that security and privacy is going to be so important. But it was just interesting, and I think everyone finds it interesting when I break it down, that from a real estate perspective, there's so much intricacy of privacy, security, data, information that you don't maybe think about right off the bat, that, wow, oh my God, just an office lease, you can get all that information. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I'm super curious though. A lot of the other founders that we've talked to who offer similar solutions in different industries, different niches, they've expressed challenges when it comes to conveying the message and having the organizations understand the need for their kind of solutions. Is that a challenge that you've personally experienced in terms of the problem, why the problem needs to get fixed, but the organizations that you're trying to convey it to, maybe the decision makers don't quite understand it? And if that is a challenge, how are you navigating that?
Well, you should ask that question before you start your business, right? You should go in and do some understanding of the products and your audience before you go in and start developing them. But I think there's a price point for everything, right? I
Yeah.
think there's a price point for everything that makes sense. I think that there's nuances where the hardest part at times is when, you know, you have a system in place that can do a lot of what you're already saying it can do, and you're just telling them this is different, but do you really need it? So it comes down to pricing. But at the end of the day, if you always start with a warm audience, and the quickest way to do it is to walk into every room and tell them that someone they know and is in the same business already has it,
Yeah.
right? That is a way that, very quickly things can progress, and proof of concept. And when you're starting it new, you have to just give a little bit of some tender loving care of free, right? Or to try it and demos, right? And that's how you get your name out there. And that's just for maybe the younger audience or someone who's starting out on how you move yourself forward and you build yourself a pipeline of business. You sometimes are doing things for less than what you should be doing it for. But definitely always beta test, definitely do emphasize product design, definitely be self-aware enough to gain feedback. And that's something that I always do. I almost try to go to my friends who I know will have every reason to just tell me and rip something apart and tell me what's wrong with it. And it's all out of love. But you need that when you're starting a business, and you need that when you're building solutions. And also, you can use AI chat systems to help you find a way on how to make your product sell or understand your audience better. And it's called inquiry based learning. And if you prompt certain areas with the chat system on what you're going through and what challenges are, it's a way for you to actually learn a subject matter better. And it's something that I also always try and educate everyone on when you're prompting, and a way to do it. Don't just ask a question, try to learn a subject.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you did the market research before you even started. And I think that's something that would help a lot of people either realize that their idea maybe isn't really needed and people don't really want it, or it is something for you to go after. But that market research prior to actually launching is critical.
I'm blessed that I live in New York City. Right off the bat, it's actually a gift and a curse, right? Because the curse is everyone is a shark, and there's so much competition, right? So competition is not something that can ever scare you off if you're coming from New York City. Everyone is talented, everyone is educated, everyone has experience, everyone has clients because there's so many companies. So it's never competition. But also then it's the gift of having access, being able to walk down the street and have access to somebody, bump into somebody, make a phone call, suggest you meet. Versus, I remember I went to a conference one time, and somebody said they were working with a large Fortune 500 company, but he was sitting in Whitefish, Montana. Never heard of it. It's basically, I don't know, the last possible place before you hit like Canada or Antarctica, in the middle of nowhere. And then he's able to go get a Fortune 500 company. And I said, oh, you know what I mean? You can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with the world we live in now, the internet has condensed the whole world. You can have access to anybody as long as you know how to reach out to them.
And you
Let's
put
let's
an effort.
put in effort, 1,000%. Let's shift over a little bit to the current business model and how it runs on the back end. How do you generate leads for these real estate, for these security guard management companies that you're looking to work with?
That's business development lead gen strategy, right? I'm a cold caller at heart. But now, thankfully, after 15 years of cold calling and doing hundreds of thousands of them, you have a warm audience. I'm a big believer also of LinkedIn. LinkedIn messaging is huge. Building a brand. I've been working hard over the last year and a half to build that brand as well. Instagram is another place that I also utilize. I believe in trying your best to understand your audience, build your brand as best you can, and then go and reach out and try and do the sale. I always learned that it's best to go to a pitch when you already won. And what that means is you've already met these people, you've already spoke to them on the phone, they've already seen some of your work. Instead of just going right to a meeting and expecting to get a sale, work it a little bit. let them know your brand, send them some information, have some contact before you go in and offer the solution.
What have you found to be the most effective strategy?
That you never know what's going to be effective for a certain customer. That's what I've learned. That there is not one fit solution. You always have to go and try everything you can, and timing is important as well for everybody. Did they get a big sale that month? And I always learned that the best way is to know if a little funding came in somehow. That's a good time. A good deal was signed, right? I remember whenever I would close a deal, my phone, and it would be in the news and the media outlets, my phone would start ringing the next 2 or 3 days from wealth managers. And sometimes you take the call a little bit more just because you're feeling good about yourself, or right. There's always those times, and it's the social awareness of feelings of what you read, and having your ear to the ground within the marketplace, and it's just like that. Effort, baby.
That's all great points. I meant so more along the lines of, you mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Instagram. What have you found to be the most effective platform for you specifically as of right now?
If I was going to be honest, it's the warm audience of picking up the phone and previous years of experience. I think that LinkedIn is great because LinkedIn gets me. Yep. Really, it works on me the most. I think it's a professional platform for what you're selling, and if you have the right audience to go after it. But I'm very old school in relationships, referrals, and hitting the phones. Again, I'm not the LinkedIn's and the email blasts, lead generation, and the Instagram. For me, that's to build your brand so that in the event you're picking up the phone, they've somewhat heard of you before. They somewhat have seen your name pop up in an email, pop up in a DM, right? But at the end of the day, the thing that always works for me personally is being old school, picking up the phone and calling.
Sure. That's never going to go away.
It's just, I don't want to give you a smoke and mirrors
I appreciate it.
Of what's not real or what my style isn't. This is what I do.
Yeah. What does the sales process look like in terms of a lead comes in, they're interested, they raise their hand, hey, I might be looking for something like this. What are the steps they go through to convert into a client?
Demo.
Okay.
Gotta provide a demo.
Is there a team behind that?
The team behind it are my developers and engineers. We provide a demo. We upload some of your data because, of course, you're not going to give us everything. So the goal is you get the meeting. You're able to sit down with the potential client who you've done business with before, right? Because that's in 15 years of my real estate experience, I've met hundreds of clients that I've worked on and done tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of deals with in the past. So you have some sort of professional respect and professional trust with me. And we go and we show a demo of the product to them. Then we would request to say, hey, can we build one for you? You can see how the interface is, how you would use it, and then comes down to price and hope that you get hired. And then the real hard work starts, because like I said, if you're going to deliver a product that is inaccurate one time, and what happens is hallucinations is one of the biggest challenges that these AI chat systems have today. Whereas for us, we're trying to create the best product of what's called guardrail protecting hallucinations. And in doing so, I rather the system say, can you rephrase that? Can you ask it a different way, instead of just delivering something that is wrong, which is what a lot of the systems today, they will do.
Help us understand, what's your vision for the company? What are your top priorities, let's say, over the next 12 months? And really, where do you want to take this thing?
I have a lot of different divisions of this and different business lines that I plan on catering to. But I also have a business line for child development and youth sports and artificial intelligence. So that's a major that I'm actually going to be introducing to New York Tech Week. So it's going to be highlighted at New York Tech Week, and we have partnerships with professional athletes as well. where we're going to be showcasing how kids can learn how to communicate with conversational AI and chat systems. So that's something. I'm a father of two daughters, and I've taught with them already how to use AI, and they communicate it with it as well. And it's great for bedtime stories to let them talk to it. Yeah, she talks to us. So we made one called Barbie Dollhouse, but then I got actually in trouble and I got flagged that I'm using the word Barbie. We ended up just doing it Dream Doll House, and she's able to go and talk to it every night and learn how to communicate where it can become naturally and effortlessly, because it's a new type of communication. It's a new type of prompting. Although the flow is going to be and is going to end up being so conversational and natural, it's still a little bit different than natural conversation. And I think it's funny that we're all going to have our style of texting, just like we have our style of email writing and we have our style of communicating one-on-one, person to person. That's another thing I'm working on: child development, youth, artificial intelligence. Real estate, I want to be the #1 AI review company for real estate, and all their supplemental service lines like security guard management, crisis management, facility management, stuff like that. I'm focused on providing data, not discretion, right? So data, not discretion. I'm putting the review in the AI so that professionals get what they need on a secure platform. And that's most important. I build it, you own it, one-time setup, and you have it forever. And then we do continuous updating, improvements, because it's a thing about every question that can be asked in the world. It's a never-ending thing. It's never ending.
100%. I know. That's awesome.
You think you build the best product, and then I give it to my father-in-law, who goes, "Let me ask this," and I go, "Oh crap, I forgot that one." It's never ending. So
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing the story with your daughters. That's super, super cool. And I love the
thank you.
that you have, and I can see that you've got the pieces in place to make that happen. As the founder, what do you feel are the biggest challenges that you're facing right now that's slowing the growth of the company?
Focusing on one thing. Focusing on one thing, and technology is so dangerous because it can make you so dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. When I was younger, and you have something hot that comes across your desk, and
Yeah.
you're like, I have to call it right now, or I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna miss it. Take your time. Don't change what you're working on because you thought of something new. But the difference is today, it's okay. And I say this many times. I use this word. It's okay to pivot, right? And pivot doesn't mean do a 180. Doesn't mean do a 360. It means you're doing a pivot, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to do that because technology today enables you to not waste time on certain things if you're able to. So when you asked me before about certain founders and not doing due diligence feedback, AI is a tool that can deliver you some feedback and deliver you some challenges that you seek so that you're not wasting time on something. And with so many tools out there, yeah, being a little more specific is okay.
Yeah. What's one tip you would give to new founders starting off in 2025 and they just want to absolutely dominate?
Feedback. Feedback. Ask it. Don't be shy of sign an NDA. Don't send this to somebody. Feedback.
Of that. Thank you so much for your time today.
My man.
What's the best place for people to reach you?
Thank you for that. Andrew Zang on LinkedIn, and ZANG, and responsible AI _guy on Instagram.
Responsible
AI _guy, GUI on Instagram.
So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. Again, thank you, Andrew, for sharing your journey and your insights with us today. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales and marketing efforts through world-class systems and playbooks. Until then, keep on climbing.